This is the Perfect RIA, in case you didn't know. Bringing you all the strategies to help your business grow. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Are you hanging on the edge of your seat? Sit back and listen in while you feel the beat, yeah!
Whatever I text Jarvis might become on a podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Perfect RIA podcast. I'm your co-host, Micah. There was some confusion recently that it isn't just my show. Someone says, Jarvis, is Micah just your sidekick? I said, of course he is. But
well,
co-host Matthew Jarvis, and with me, as usual, my other co-host, Micah Shalansky.
You know, the best response to that is, you know what? Batman needs a sidekick. I'm just saying, needs to have a Robin. That's what I tell people. So I do think it is hilarious though when we meet people, and it's happened on both sides, which is great. But just like on this one here, it's like, hey, there's another guy on your podcast. You know, it's so funny how we resonate this, and I think it's like, it blows my mind because I see you and I are co-creating this content and going through this.
Oh,
but
yeah.
then I think about other podcasts, and it's the same way. I resonate with one of the hosts, the co-hosts that are on there, and I kind of know who they are, and I know there's like someone else out there, but I don't really pay that much attention to them. So I find it fascinating. That's the reason we go to the pain of both of us on here, so that way we'll get a better chance of attracting the audience. So audience, you are welcome.
Some forced diversity here on this episode. It is an interesting thing. I guess this is a sidebar just a little bit. I did have an advisor friend. He kind of pointed out, he's like, Jarvis, because again, he was somebody I've known for a long time. He says, hey, you were really the life of the show. And I said, oh, well, geez, thank you so much. But what he didn't realize, and what I tried to articulate to him is, hey, the show, like the reason we do the show is because we enjoy the energy, the synergy so much, right? You and I, for months, we recorded the podcast thinking we were the only ones listening to it. It wasn't until, this was years ago, that one of our producers said, Amber said, hey, there's like 10,000 people a month downloading the episode. And I said, I'm not clicking on it that many times.
Right.
But it talks back, I think, Micah, to doing what you really love and surrounding yourself with people that really put you to the next level. So anyway, just a side rant on that.
Yeah, and on that, when we talk about like doing things that we love, we got to be careful on that one, because so often you can find in this trap of, I'm going to follow my passion and do A, B, and C.
Yes.
Well, you're not an expert in your passion. You suck at your passion, and you're not going to make any money at it, right? So, I mean, you got to definitely have a balancing point inside of this, and it's easy to say, hey, we're going to do this because we're at the economic status of our life. We have other successful businesses that are running and producing things, and those other businesses have created our expertise that now we can be behind the microphone and chat about things that have worked.
Micah, that's a great point, and transitions really well into our episode today, which is old school for the win. There are so many things that advisors need to be doing, old school things that are not fun.
Yes.
That are not fun. I never had a time where I thought, you know what I really want to do today? I really want to visualize all my meetings. You know what I really want to do today? I want to practice out loud for the 5th time my presentation I'm giving to a group of prospects. I never woke up and thought that. I never thought, you know what I want to do? I want to read that stupid Post-it note on my mirror again that has my affirmations, or that has my networking script, right? So there's these things that you have to do to get to success, and they are not fun. They are not fun.
Correct. And in this concept of this 10x is easier than 2x, right? It's those that are willing to put that much more energy into it, or the Ed Milet, one more, right? Doing one more rep, one more thing, one more prayer, one more affirmation, etc., is what's going to set you apart from everyone else across the board. The question is, do you have the willpower? Do you have the gumption? Do you have the drive, the passion, whatever you want to call it? But do you have that fire in your belly to do one more?
Yeah, and this really comes up as we talk to advisors in different spots of the income spectrum. And we'll talk about gross just for a minute, right, Mike? But I'll talk to advisors that are stuck at 200,000 or 300,000 or 500,000, and it only just takes a couple of questions to figure out why they're stuck there. I'll say, hey, what books did you read recently? You know what, Jarvis, I don't really like to read books. Okay, well, what podcast do you listen to? Well, I listened to yours once. Okay, what's your morning ritual? How often are you practicing these things? Are you time blocking? Do you have alerts on your PC? And then all of the things that destroy productivity, they're doing all those things. And all the things that create productivity, they're not doing. It's without fail. It's without fail.
Because it's easy, right? It is easy.
It's simple.
It is simple. It is so simple. Well, no, it's easy to fall off the wagon, right?
Oh, yes, it is easy to fall off the wagon.
It's easy to get addicted to the alerts, to the technology, to the playing office, like all of those things. It's easy not to read. All of those things are super easy to do. And the hard thing, now, to your point, Jarvis, it's not complex. It is simple. It is not mentally challenging to do these things, but it's hard work to do the things that are going to be successful. I sent you a text last night of a picture, and I said going old school, and it was on my bathroom mirror as well as in my truck, and I had a couple others. I had written out Post-it notes. And I've gone back to writing out Post-it notes and putting affirmations because I was accepted to nationals for a USPSA shooting match. And so I'm super jazzed about that. And I got a couple of months to train before nationals. And so it says, you know what, I need to pull out some things and really get engaged in this. And Jarvis, to your point, I want to compete really well at nationals. I want to do well when I'm there. And last night, I did not want to write one single Post-it note. I didn't want to write the affirmations. I didn't want to read the affirmations. I didn't want to think about the affirmations. I didn't want to go through a formula to create an affirmation. I don't want to do any of that. And I was trying to think about reasons not to do it, quite frankly, right? While I was doing this, and I was like, damn it, am I going to be a great competitor or not? This is the only question. Am I going to be a great competitor or not at nationals? And my answer is yes, I will be a great competitor. Therefore, I need to do the things great people are willing to do.
I like that point. I've never been the kind of person where I get up in the morning and think, I feel like doing my affirmations, right? Or I feel like, again, visualization. But again, if you're going to be a great level competitor, whether that's as an advisor or in this case at the USPSA National Shooting Match, you have to do the things that great competitors do. So let's talk about some of those things, Micah. One thing that I did, so people often comment to me. In fact, a friend just commented the other day. They said, wow, Jarvis, whenever we go out, you're kind of the life of the crowd. You're talking to everybody. You've got funny jokes to tell. You must be a natural at this. I'm not. I'm not a natural at this at all. In fact, my high school years were terrible. I never even went to a dance, let alone dance with somebody. If I happened to be there, I'd be glued against the wall. I would never talk to anybody. I would walk around the high school campus staring at my feet, hoping nobody would make eye contact with me. I have no natural charisma, but I thought, great, I'm going to work on this. I want to be better at this. And so one of the things I would do, Micah, every time I went to any kind of public event, I would sit in my car and I would out loud practice again and again and again. My name is Matthew Jarvis. Tell me what brings you to this event. By the way, that's not a clever line. But it's like this earth-shattering line. Hey, my name is Matthew Jarvis. Tell me what brings you to this event. And I would practice that again, and I would picture in my mind, okay, who's going to be at this event? All right, well, Dave's going to be there, and Sue's going to be there. So I'm going to walk up to Dave, and Dave's going to be excited to see me, and he's going to smile, and he's going to say, Jarvis, how are you? And I'm going to say, oh, Dave, I'm doing so great. And I would practice these things, and I felt like an idiot, Mike, an absolute idiot, and I hated it.
So stupid. Mm-hmm.
But here I am. Here I am today.
Yeah, you feel ridiculous, and then other people look at you, right? And all of a sudden that embarrassment factor comes up because you're in your car practicing it, and people come up and stare at you and look at you and like, what the hell are you doing? And you have to you looking nuts, you look insane.
Yep.
But these are things you have to do, and these are not new things. That's the reason we said going old school, right? This visualization technique. This is what you need to do every single day you have client meetings or client phone calls about your client appointments. Every single day, you need to visualize what the outcome of that's going to be. We talked about this in a previous podcast, but one of our advisors had a meeting with a prospect and it did not go well. And so they were given kind of two choices, right? They could do a refund or they could meet with me. They wanted to meet with me. Anyway, so I was reviewing all of their stuff and the advisor came up and was like, hey, this meeting's not going to go well for you. And I said, actually, this meeting's going to go fantastic for me. And they're like,
probably
no.
One of my best ever.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to knock this damn thing out of the park. And they're like, well, no, here's all the problems and here's the issue and here's their personalities and blah, 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 blah. I was like, hey, I'm going to stop you right there. I was like, appreciate a little bit of that insight. I'm going to go into deliver massive value mode. Where's the hammer at? We got to hit there. All right. So
the value sledgehammer.
So I'm going to go into DMV mode. And so in that, I reviewed all their stuff. Then Jarvis, I closed my eyes and I visualized walking up to the lobby. I visualized seeing them smiling at me, shaking their hands, walking into the conference room, helping them into the chair, and a little bit of the small talk, how the value was going to go. I was practicing out loud my questions that I was going to say. Now, I have done these types of meetings like 10,000 times, and I am still doing this. I'm saying, hey, they had a little bit of a rough start with our firm. I need to knock this thing out of the park. And that's what I visualized. And I visualized a successful outcome inside of that. That did not mean they hired us, by the way. My definition of successful outcome is they left with massive value. Hire us or not, right? They left in the office saying, holy crap, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's improved my life for this hour that we spent together. That is my goal in our initial consultation. Not only did that happen, they hired us, which has been fantastic. So these are things that all come through. Now, if I had walked into that meeting saying, oh, crap, they met with somebody else and they're really rude and they're short-tempered and whatever the other stuff was going on, I wouldn't have performed as well in that meeting.
No, because that comes across. And again, this is another old school technique that really works is and you did the same thing. I always set myself up for success, right? So when I'm visualizing, I visualize that they're going to be excited to see me, that their minds are going to be blown, that when I tell them my fee, they're going to think it was the biggest deal and they're the best deal in the world.
Right.
And the reason for that is twofold. One, I come in with that energy. The other is if they're not blown away by what I'm doing, I'm genuinely surprised. And that surprise when they say, wait a second, I don't know if I should hire you. What? Really? Huh?
Yeah.
Versus if I go in and I think, oh man, they're probably going to say no. And then when they say yes, I'm surprised. I'm like, wait a second, you're surprised that we said yes? So that mindset you come in with, it seems silly. It really seems silly. It makes all the difference in the world.
So if you don't have that mindset, what are some stepping stones that you need to do? One is you need to write an affirmation on a 3x5 card. And you need to start putting them out there. I have one taped on my computer screen right here. I have one taped on my bathroom mirror. In my bathroom mirror, by the way, it's in the middle of where my head would be when I am when in front of the sink. You know why? Because at first I put it low on the counter last night. I was like, damn it, I know not to do this. And so I raised it up and I like all these things, right? I didn't want to do it. And so I raised it up and I put it right in the middle. Why did I put it right in the middle? Because I have to see it. Like in the morning, I get in there and I wash my face and I look up and it's right there in my face and it forces me to look at it and read it. I got one that's covering up the instruments on my vehicle. I'll probably move it when I'm driving, right? But why? Because, as soon as I get in the vehicle, I want to see it, right? I want to see these all over the place so it's constant. So if you are not to that level of confidence, you need to write an affirmation that says you are fantastic in client meetings. Clients love to meet with you. You deliver massive value to them. They're excited to come in and see you. They are delighted to work with you. They're surprised at how low your fee is. Your fee better not be low. So for the value that you're providing, right? So all of these things you need to write down and you need to start believing. And when you start saying this, or Jarvis, push back on me if I'm the only one here. When I start reading my affirmations, I say, great, I'm going to be the best competitor at 2023 Nationals. And my mind says, no, you're not. I love shooting partials with weekend only. No, you don't. So my mind is, as soon as I say some one of these things, my mind is immediately telling me I don't like it because I'm writing the things I need to change. And so I got to keep pushing past that.
You totally do. I think the other place that really comes into play, and you mentioned this shooting weekend partials, which will make sense to people that are competitive shooters and everyone else that doesn't, but don't worry about that.
Right.
Wherever I struggle, wherever there's a spot in my prospect process or a spot in my networking or a spot in my team communications where I struggle, where I think fee discussion is a great one. Well, I used to really struggle with bringing up what do we charge? And I would we kind of charge, it sort of depends on you. Well, we're paid in 3 ways. And it was this terrible thing. Now it's just great. And I got this one for you, Micah. Hey, listen, fees in our industry range from about 0 to 3%. At 1.5%, ours are right about in the middle, but our value is way above average. Does that make sense to you? And I can say, like, they were asking me my name or my kids' names. Like, hey, what are your kids' names? Oh, my kids' names are Alice, Ella, and Calvin. There's no hesitation. There's no kind of like, well, I don't really know. And so anywhere you struggle in your prospect process or just in anything in life, practice that again and again and again until you convince your brain that it's the truth.
Another area to see inside this, Jarvis, what questions are you dreading? And this one for me was a really big one, is there were certain questions I prayed people would not ask me, right? Because I didn't have a great answer for these questions. So a couple of things that are inside there. One, I should have a better answer for these questions. But the other thing is saying I'm putting so much negative energy out there, I'm almost guaranteeing they're going to ask me this question. Yes. Right. So I need to refrain that. I need to change that. So here's an easy one. I was working with another advisor. He's new to value adds, getting things set up the other day. And one of the things I was talking about, I said, well, Micah, in most of your client meetings, it comes up that, you're spending most of your time talking performance and market. So how do you address that? I said, quick clarification. I am not talking about markets and performance in the vast majority of my meetings. There's maybe 5% of my clients that will ask that. And then it's generally markets and performance is less than 5 minutes. Unless something catastrophic is going on, then it's 5.5 minutes. But it's a very short period of time. And his eyes were just blown over, and he's doing an hour and a half, 2-hour meetings. And he's focused a lot on the markets and the economy. I said, because of where you put your attention is where the client is going to focus their attention. You're choosing to tie your value to the S&P 500. Here's my dilemma with that. I can't control the S&P 500. So I'm setting all of my value, success or failure, up on an index I can't control. I like to win. So if I get a chance to change the rules that it's going to be in our favor for the clients as well, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to peg our value based on the value that we can deliver to the client independent of the stock market. 1099 letter, tax planning, reviewing estate planning documents, having difficult conversations about cash flow, retirement income planning, strategies to make sure they don't outlive their money. All of those things are 100% inside of my control, that's where we have our conversations. So if you're dreading a question from a client, you really need to think about, okay, am I spending too much time on the wrong thing? Am I not answering it correctly? Or how do I get ahead of that? That's a great use of an affirmation card.
Yeah, and by the way, if there's a question that you're dreading, you need to lead with that question.
Yes.
Hey, a lot of my clients ask, and just go right through it. If there's an elephant in the room, you need to tackle that elephant head on. Another thing that was a real turning point in my career, this is old school, this is back from the insurance days, right? Is I ended up having a agency manager, this guy, Ray Adams. I wrote about him in my book. He's who taught me how to do centers of influence. And Ray, bless his soul, he would just tell me, he's like, Jarvis, listen, because I was the only one paying attention. He would say, Jarvis, listen, this is what I do when I go in to sit down with a CPA, right? And he just walked through and I would say, Ray, what happens when they say this? And he says, oh, I laugh. And he would just word for word tell me. And so part of that old school is going to people, and Ray had a phenomenal practice. He was making a ton of money. He was delivering an incredible value. Going to people like that, I never tried to compete with Ray because he would knock my socks off. I wanted to just go and I'd learn. And so this is another old school thing about you want to go to whoever's best in the game, or at least the best you can get access to, and don't debate them and don't ask them about stupid things like, well, what if on a Tuesday, hey, Ray, when people say this, I don't know what to say back. When people say, why would I buy life insurance? Ray, what do you say? And he says back, he has something funny like, hey, listen, I need to go watch I Love Lucy because I don't want to see in this meeting very long. If you care about your family, buy this insurance. And if you don't, then don't. That was actually his line. Whenever Ray Adams was stuck, Ray, bless his heart, he would just say, you know what, listen, I've got some I Love Lucy reruns I need to get back to. So if we could wrap this up, that would be great.
I do not have the gumption to say that in a meeting.
I'm still not sure if it was true or not. The way that I just, but that was his way of diffusing any situation. He'd be like, listen, I've got some I Love Lucy reruns I need to get back to. And so if we could wrap this up, that would be great. That was his line. You know,
so let's, that's so funny. All right. So if we pertain this to an advisor, I got to find a way to do this because whenever we do a conference or something at a larger event, someone will inevitably pull me aside. I don't know if it happens to you, Jarvis, inevitably pull me aside and they want to talk about buckets, guardrails. And they want to talk about how they ran some review or some report somewhere and how it doesn't work with some inflation model or something out this. And first thing I stop and I say, first thing, you're a CFA, correct? And they're generally yes, or they passed one of two tests. And I said, and the second thing is you have less than 100 households or clients. Is that correct? And they said, yes. Okay, great. So you're spending way too much time in the weeds and you don't trust the work, education, and process that other people have done. You think you can do it better. And in that, okay, great. Well, if that's what you want to do, go for it. Might be a little narcissistic, by the way, because you don't know what you're doing yet. So it might be a good time to learn from those who are very successful at it and say, you know what, they're probably doing this for a reason. Jarvis, we have this when we're onboarding a new team member, especially when we're bringing team members in from the industry, right? They're now working with us, which is fantastic. I say, hey, great news. When you come and work with us, you're going to have all of these great ideas. You're going to see us doing something. And you know what? I think there's a better way to do it. And you're probably right. But what I'd love you to do, and we give them a notebook, I said, any of those ideas, I want you to write down in this notebook and I want to address them, but I want to address them 90 days after you have onboarded with us. Because what's going to happen is you're going to go through something, you're going to want to change a bunch of stuff because you don't really see the process. Then after about 90 days, you start seeing how everything comes together. So any new thing you want to do, write it down. We're going to address 100% of these 90 days later. And 90 days later, there's virtually nothing on that list because they've answered their own questions. And I feel that advisors are that same thing, is that we don't want to follow someone else's process. We want to create our own thing. We want to create more work versus just doing what needs to get done until we understand it.
Yeah, there's an illusion that people that make it look easy, that it's easy for them. And it always comes back to that they've put in all of the reps. And really it comes down to every single little thing they're doing is intentional, if only because they tried all of the other wrong ways to do it, right? Everything from how you walk into the meeting, where you sit down, how you hold your pen, how your paper is positioned. All of these things like seem like they don't matter or that there must be a better way. That there's not, right? Unless you can find somebody who's doing more revenue or has a better practice using these things. And Micah, here, I'm on a soapbox a little bit. We often get sucked into the industry about the people that have the sexiest presentation.
Yes.
Right? Industry commentators, people with small practices that decide they're going to tell their advisors what to do. And what they're doing looks really sexy. In fact, Micah, when I see it, I think, wow, this is really cool. Like, look at this software, look at this presentation, look at these graphics. And then I pull their ADV and they're making $12.
Right.
So while it may look really cool, it doesn't work in real life.
I'm laughing because it's the same thing, right? I was doing I had a software demonstration recently, and I was going through the software demonstration, and it was great salesman, wonderful charisma, going through a lot of really cool stuff. And he's like, look at all the stuff these advisors use, and look at this. Oh my gosh, do you use this with your client? No, I don't use this with my client. Look at all these reports you can run. I'm like, oh my gosh, we don't run any of these reports with my clients. We should really think about this. And then I was like, wait, none of this matters. And it's really easy to get trapped into this. More is so much better. And they had this huge 52-page report they wanted you to review. It talks about all this tax savings, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, none of that matters because I'll never get through it with my client. Now, I could like drag them through it, but they'll retain zero of that information. I need a simplified 1-page statement that talks about where the client is, where they want to go, and what action steps do we need to take in order to get there. That's it. And it seems overly simple, but guess what? That's what works across the board. So don't overcomplicate this. And if you think in your mind that says, I can't do that because I'm not delivering enough value, then bust out an affirmation card, write down of how a 1-page financial plan is the best thing for a client because it clearly articulates their action items, and start believing that. Do that for 21 days. Do that for 40 days. Read those cards every single day, and you're going to see your mindset change.
It's completely true. Micah, the other place this comes up, I think, is with new technology. Right? Whether that's new social media outlets or whether advisors should be on TikTok or whatever it is, and then thinking that somehow this is a shortcut. And I guess that's really where this comes back to. The new school is about hacks and it's about shortcuts. In fact, Jocko one time really went after Tim Ferriss. He says, I'm so tired of this hacking baloney. He says, you can hack your way to success. No, maybe there's some corners you can kind of take a couple steps in place, but it's all discipline. It's all reps. And as advisors, and I knew, Micah, you and I, we've shared war stories about this. Oh, if I get this fancy brochure, if I get this new website, if I get this new whatever, that will surely do the deal because I didn't want to do the hard, uncomfortable reps that it takes to be successful.
And that's one of the things that every time I deviate from this, Jarvis, it blows up in my face across the board. Anytime we're doing anything marketing related, I say, great, I want a clear measurement how this dollar and this activity equals new clients. And if it doesn't, I really want to know why I'm spending money on this. Right. And so we'll try out new things, but we need to give them a finite period of time. It needs to produce results between X and Y in this period of time, or we're bouncing. Right. It's not a great thing, even though it feels cool, even though it's like on the cutting edge and doing all of these things, etc. Hey, if it's not producing results, it's got to go. Same thing with the podcast. When we started our podcast from Plan Your Federal Retirement, or the YouTube channels, which I was totally against, by the way. I didn't want to do the YouTube channels, thought it was stupid. And my team finally convinced me to do them. I said, great, here's the criteria for new clients. And then sure enough, we did the YouTube channels. And within a month, one of the prospects that was onboarding says, Mike, I've been watching your videos on YouTube for years. They're amazing. I've just been doing that for a month, by the way, right? And I was like, okay, well, perfect. This works. Now we can quantify the energy we're putting into this into direct client results. But I've done a lot of things that I could not put directly into client results. Those got to go. Those are playing office.
Completely, they do. One last point I want to cover on this, and we kind of hinted at this a little bit, and we talk about it in a lot of episodes, is, again, where you're going for advice. I really just can't harp on this one enough. If you're an advisor who's doing sub $1 million a year gross revenue, you should not be taking advice from anybody who's sub $1 million a year. You need to be taking advice from people that are several levels above you. And even then you need to make sure, and Micah, this is always your filter, is this a good idea, or is this something that you've actually had results in your practice? I know a lot, you and I know a lot of advisors, and I'll meet advisors and say, oh, I'm following so-and-so's strategy. And I say, great, let me just stop you right there. How much is so-and-so making? Well, I think he must be doing really well. Let's pull his ADV real quick. Oh, it says that so-and-so has the same assets under management as I have in my couch cushion. So-and-so should not be giving advice, and you don't want to follow. Maybe his advice will work. Maybe. I don't want to take that chance. What I want to find is somebody who has more in their bank account than I have in assets under management, and that's who I want to be taking advice from. So be very, very selective. Again, this is old school. Old school is you go to whoever's doing it best, and you learn from that person, right? Apprenticeships, right? That was old school of old school.
Yeah, amen. Nothing is new, right? So the way I would apply that, Jarvis, is I would apply an 80-20 rule. Now, I would assume, and I think pretty accurately, because I was guilty of this for a long time, that I would spend 80% of my time on new activities that were unproven because they were cool, shiny new things, I can do it better than anybody else, and 20% of my activities that are proven activities. And then all of my results would come from that 20%. So what I need to focus on, or you as the advisor need to focus on, 80% of your activities need to be proven strategies, not theoretical. Now, if you want to carve out 10 to 20% of your time and dollars, but make sure you're hyper intentional about what that time is, how much time do you actually have, really commit 80% of time and dollars to proven strategies. If you want to carve out a little bit in order for it to say, hey, I want to try this out to see if it works, I am zero qualms with that. And I think that's a great thing. I love doing that personally. It just feels like I'm always trying to push that needle forward. But again, 80% of my time has to be on things that work and dollars. Only 20% can be allotted to new things. And you got to be really rigid with that because those new things, those new shiny objects, they'll take over everything.
I love it. It's spot on. Well, Micah, this podcast is about taking action. And speaking of old school, right? Taking action is the old school, right? You just have to do the reps. So I'm going to say action item number 1. And the text you sent me from your bathroom yesterday.
Thanks for phrasing it that way.
That you sent me of the picture on your bathroom wall, was your affirmations, was a good reminder of the importance of having affirmations. It's been a while since I've had affirmations up on different places, my mirror, my computer monitor, my dashboard. And so I'm going to put those back up. You need to have affirmations. They can be things like you talked about. Hey, I'm the best that I can be. I'm getting better every day. Every day I'm getting better and better. All these things. They can be really specific ones. Hey, my name is Matthew Jarvis. I run an investment company, right? Whatever it is, my fee is 1.5%. Whatever it is you need to get so good at, put that up somewhere, put it up everywhere so you're seeing it again and again.
I love it. Number 2, visualize everything you want to improve in your life. So if you don't want it to improve, then don't worry about it. But if you want it to improve, if you want a better client meeting experience, if you want a better prospect experience, you want a better team meeting, and that's the area that I struggle and I rush into team meetings versus visualize them. So true confessions here.
That's a good point.
But you need to spend 5 minutes before that meeting, set a timer on your phone. It's the only time that I kind of like timers going off. So then that way I can release and I can let go of time because I know my timer is going to go off and I'm not going to be late. And I can have 3 minutes to visualize what that meeting is going to be. Right. So then that way I can sit down, I can visualize it, I can see what's going to happen, I can walk through those things. Now, that's not preparing for the meeting. I have done that earlier. So I already know everything that's going to be going on. This 3 minutes before is pure visualization of that client, that experience, that outcome, etc., of how it's going to come together.
Yeah, we really just can't overstate that one enough. Action item number 3, this Wednesday, we are having our power session on the one big mistake that's keeping you from 10xing your practice. We will also, Micah, be accepting new members into the Backstage Pass and Invictus coaching programs for the next week. And so if you are ready to really see the growth of your practice catapult, if you're saying, boy, I've learned some good stuff from the podcast. By the way, the podcast is just scratching the surface of what it is that we do with members and what it is we do in our practices and in the coaching program.
Yeah, amen. And this is one thing that, again, it's the selfish plug side of it, but we truly have built Backstage Pass and Invictus is designed as what we think is the best thing advisors need to do to increase their practice. Don't reinvent the wheel. You need to spend 80% of your time, energy, and money on things that work. And guess what? Everything inside of Backstage Pass has been proven and works because this is what we do. This is what we've done for over 20 plus years in building and refining this system. It's time for you to join that. It's time for you to become a member and to massively improve your practice.
I love it. Well, Micah, thank you so much for this. Thanks for the reminder that the old school is always there for the win. And for all of our listeners, until next time, happy planning.
Happy planning.
Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice.